Is the U.S. medical system really as broken as the clichés make it seem? Do you really have to pay for an ambulance ride? How much does regular medicine cost, like a pack of ibuprofen, or any other brand of painkillers? And the most fucked up of all, how can it be that in the 21st century in a first world country a phrase like medical expense bankruptcy can even exist? I've often joked about rather having cancer in Europe than a bruise in America, but it seems the US medical system really is that bad. Please tell me like half of it is clichés and you have a normal functioning system underneath all the weirdness. Ambulance rides are so expensive I one time begged a cop to take me to the emergency room in the back of their car. Was probably 3 miles away but saved me at least $1,000. I called myself an Uber and waited on the lawn for 30 minutes instead of calling an ambulance. When my dad had a heart attack alone at home, he drove himself. Yes, ambulances can charge. Painkillers at a grocery store are like $5 per bottle. Painkillers as part of a hospital stay are like $100. For the same ones? Yeah, it is. Even for people with insurance, the prices can be absolutely ridiculous. For example, here's how insurance works for most people. I'm going to use myself as an example because I feel I have a pretty normal circumstance. I pay a set amount for my insurance plan about every paycheck. For me, that about is around $100 per paycheck, so about $200 per month. You'd think that would mean that I can use my insurance, right? Wrong. Even though I'm giving the insurance company $2,400 a year, I still have to meet my deductible every year, which is $3,000. Oh, and the $2,400 a year I pay does not apply to that deductible. This means I have to pay $3,000 in addition to the $2,400 out of pocket before my insurance will cover anything at all. And once I reach that $3,000, I'm still going to be paying 20% of all medical costs until I reach what's called my out-of-pocket max for the year. For me, that's $4,000. Once I pay $4,000, my insurance company will then finally cover all medical costs as long as they're covered. That means that I have to pay, at minimum, $6,400 a year before I get all of my medical needs covered without having to pay up front. And odds are, if I were to get a big surgery or get into some kind of accident, something that I needed would inevitably not be covered by my insurance for some bogus, bullshit reason, so I would be stuck with paying even more than the $6,400 I mentioned. Then I would have to spend months fighting with my insurance company and the hospital to demand they cover my costs, hoping they eventually cave, which they probably won't. Not to mention the hoops you often have to jump through to even get any kind of surgery because you have to prove to your insurance company that you actually need it, since, it's the insurance who determines that and not your actual doctor. Then at the end of the year, my deductible and out-of-pocket max reset and I have to start all over and pay all that money again if I want free medical care. Anyways, I digress. If you think all of that sounds confusing, that's because it is, and the average American has absolutely no idea how any of this works, and that's the entire point. Insurance companies rely on innocent Americans not knowing how the system works, so they get conned into racking up tons of debt to the point that they have to file bankruptcy. To tack on to what everyone is saying, you absolutely have to pay for ambulance rides. You have to pay just for them showing up. My dad went to a doctor's appointment before he got his portable oxygen tank, got confused in the building and had to walk further than normal to find their office. Got in and was having trouble breathing, just needed to sit down. They insisted on calling an ambulance, he literally couldn't stop them. All they did was show up, tell him to take some deep breaths and relax. $225. I want to point out here that he was at a hospital and it was a crew that came up from the ER. They didn't even come from somewhere else. My mother is terminally ill, and when she passes my father will be saddled with her overwhelming medical debt and will likely have to declare bankruptcy. My mom has been trying to convince my dad to legally divorce her to save him from that, but he never will.